John, so much fun. I can't believe you're finally doing it.
How long are we together already?
6 years.
Unbelievable.
6 years of a journey.
But it went fast, so it means we had fun, I think.
Yeah, we did. So much that we went through a combination of 6 years
Yeah.
for Aliyah, for investments, for
Financing, everything.
unbelievable.
Yeah. It is
Unbelievable.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, in one word, who's this podcast for?
I think for people who want to make or think about Aliyah today, tomorrow, 5 years, but also for people who live here and made Aliyah before, for people who speak English, of course, and have to do more than only living here, like investment, financing. What does it mean all to them?
Let's jump into the water. What is the most important things that everyone that wants to make Aliyah or invest in Israel has to know?
Okay, first of all, I think the reason of making Aliyah is the most important one. We have two ways of making Aliyah, the negative way, the positive way. We could talk about anti-Semitism. But the opportunities in Israel, that's what people have to learn here. There are more opportunities than only doing the mitzvah as a Jew to live in Israel. And I think there you talk about investment, you talk about housing, you talk about your rich religious life.
So, how is it that Israel, from one hand side, has lots of opportunities, but from the other hand side, is so complicated, like you say?
That's a good question. Well, I made Aliyah twice. But one of the reasons why it's so complicated is, first of all, the bureaucracy, the language. You have to understand how everything works. If you talk about financing, how do the banks work? What is the taxation? What's interesting? When do I have to make my decisions? Before Aliyah, after Aliyah? That's the complication. The opportunities, well, you know better than me. It already starts in the investment in real estate. It's a big opportunity. Look at the exchange rates. I mean, the shekel is much stronger than any other currency at the moment.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And even, if we talk about this investment and we talk about the 6 years together, I remember that, let's say, the real estate in Israel is not the only reason for you to make money. There must be something more like in your roots, like your great grandfather you always talk with proud about. Can you explain a little bit?
Of course, of course. It's interesting because I definitely started from the business point of view, from the real estate, the entrepreneur point of view. But the more I grew into it, and the more I learned, and I started connecting to my roots. And my great grandfather, that I'm actually named after, his name was Menachem Mendel Kasher. He was a big influence in our house and in my life. And he was well known, and he was a rare person that today you won't find. He was a big Talmid Chacham, a big Zionist that believed that any Jew should come to Israel. He already, in 1927, he already came to Israel from the first time from New York. He used to live in upstate in Manhattan. And he came to Israel and he purchased thousands of dunams of land, and he brought communities to Israel. He actually built the first Haredi kibbutz that fortunately did not last. But this whole idea of Zionism and Ityashvut and this whole thing started connecting together. And when the connection happens and you feel you actually, your believers, your values works together with the business, that's amazing.
So actually, if I understand, it's very interesting. You have a responsibility, you think, with your company related to Israel. So what is this responsibility you think is for the next generations you want to give them?
Listen, in the end of the day, it's a journey. It's not an easy journey. But the lesson is, I have it from my own personal experience. I mean, I grew into a family that my parents made Aliyah. I was actually raised and born in Israel, but my father was born in New York. My mother came from Canada. And actually, till today, even some of my siblings still live there. So over the years, I had a lot of connections with the whole idea of Aliyah and Jews coming to Israel. And I think that for the young generation, the most important thing is to know that to start asking the right questions when you're young. When you start young, I call it the AI generation. And if you will ask the right questions, you could get to the answers much faster. And that's, I think, the main message that I would like them to have.
Listening to this interesting story about your great grandfather, what is the responsibility you feel today with your real estate company, investment company, land buying company towards Aliyah?
In the end of the day, what makes Meny Group unique is a whole philosophy, a whole method that we created together. That it involves also our experience, thousands of hours of mistakes, of a journey, of what to do, what not to do, what are the things to be careful from, what kind of questions to ask for. And at the end of the day, this knowledge could be the best service for people that want to make Aliyah. At the end of the day, if you ask the right questions at the right times and the way you're supposed to ask it, you'll get to your goal. Because we always say there is to learn how to be focused and what is it exactly you're looking for, right? Which involves resources, plan, whatever it is, right? And then how you find the right thing you want that will serve that goal, and then what to choose. Once you do it that way, your Aliyah will be right, your life will be right, your business will be right, and investment in Israel will be right.
Interesting.
Yeah. But John, we talked a lot about my grandfather.
Right.
You have an unbelievable story as well. I mean,
Yeah.
this whole topic of Aliyah is, it's very interesting and personal for you. So, where did you come? Where did you make Aliyah from? And what was that decision that made that? What was that thought that made your decision? I'm doing it.
Right. Well, it's interesting, actually. I can't compete with your great-grandfather, I have to be honest. I made Aliyah purely egoistic. I was raised up in Holland, in Amsterdam, together with my wife, in Bnei Akiva. And Bnei Akiva, as you know, is a Zionistic youth movement. And they actually brainwash you. They say about everything about the mitzvot. One of the important things is Torah v'avodah. Torah we can learn anywhere in the world, but avodah you do in Israel. So I went.
They did a good job.
Sorry?
They did a good job in brainwashing.
They do a very good job in brainwashing. And then you talked also about, you have to have knowledge. Well, this is the mistake a lot of youngsters make. And a lot of youngsters are coming to Israel first on a Shnat Mechina or whatsoever. I didn't have the privilege to do this. So when I was married at a young age, 20 years old, we said we have to go to Israel. And I was working for the Zionist organization in Holland as the educational center. And they said, no, we give you a job in Israel, we give you a place to live in Israel, everything is settled for you. And as naive as I was, I believed every word, no written contracts or whatsoever. So my wife and I, we went. First we went to a small, short-time Ulpan in Tiberia, and then I went to the place where we were going to work, and they said, well, man, we don't have any job for you. We don't have housing, we don't have anything. So we ended up in our first Aliyah with a failure, but it was the best year of my life. It was a volunteer year. And we lived a great life, but we didn't make the final Aliyah. We went back to Amsterdam.
Wow. So when did you come back?
The dream never left. The blood of Zionism was still in our bodies, of course. But you start a family, you start your career, etc., etc. So it took me till my age of 55 to make my second Aliyah. But this time I prepared a little bit better, although it was still not 100%. And that's why I admire what you guys are doing in Meny Group, because I learned so much through the way about housing, investment in Israel, financing, which I could never have learned from anybody else, not from any organization. And that's why I'm very happy that we decided to do a combination of the Meny Group with the knowledge, and also business-wise, I understand. But the free of charge consults we give in the Coming Home to Israel Foundation to make people prepared even 99.9%.
There's nothing like personal experience.
Absolutely.
But doing it at the age of 55, it takes a lot of,
and I tell you honestly, I came with a job which I had abroad. And you have privileges as Oleg does. You don't pay taxes or whatsoever. Very interesting. But the company went bankrupt after 3 weeks, 3 months when I was here. So I started all over again at the age of 55.
That's what we say. Eretz Yisrael niknet be'isurim. It's not for weak people.
Absolutely.
So what was the most exciting part in your Aliyah?
The most exciting part to make the Aliyah was the adrenaline of going to shul because you want to go to shul. You don't have to go to shul. If you live abroad, you're mostly working as a volunteer in the Jewish community. Whether you are Chazan, you're a Baal Koreh, or like I did, I started with the Jewish community, a new synagogue. I had to open every day the door. I did the Shacharit, blah, 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 organizing. Here, I'm just a nobody. So it gave me rest and peace in my Judaism. Then everywhere there are Jews. I don't have to look behind me when I want to go over a crossover. I can actually see the cars who can kill me and not somebody else.
What was the hardest part? What was the surprising part?
The hardest part came actually after 3 months when the company I was working for closed. And then I thought, man, how am I going to do this all financially? What am I going to work? Suddenly, I became an Israeli. My vacation was over. And I had to start from scratch again. That
Well,
was difficult.
So what would you want, what would you wish that someone would have told you before you made the Aliyah?
First of all, when to make decisions, what to do. That's important. We all know we have to do all the documentations. We know there's bureaucracy. But for instance, when you lose your job, where is your income coming from? Why did I buy a house already? I didn't, thank God, because I met you long before.
Right.
But those are things you would have to know before. When do I buy a house? Do I do it before Aliyah, after Aliyah? Why should I sell my house in Israel, in Holland? Why not rent it out and have some income? There's no good guidance in there, and that's why I'm happy we started the Coming Home to Israel Foundation, where we
Right.
can help these people.
What would you do differently?
I think what I would do differently is first of all sell my house in Israel when I was in Holland. Sorry, when I was still there, starting investing in land here. I did it much later, but thank God, from out of these investments, we could help our children to buy their apartments here in Israel.
Beautiful.
Secondly, to understand much more about the banking system here. Third of all, to understand the mentality before I come, instead of
Sounds
realizing when
impossible.
I'm here.
Right.
Yeah. And last but not least is to understand that the integration you have to do yourself. Don't wait for people to come to, oh, I'm so happy you're here.
Menanili mili, basically.
Right, exactly, exactly.
So what would you say to someone that, wants to make Aliyah, but obviously is afraid?
Well, the scarenesses which people have, everybody has his own, let's say, ideal situation he wants to live in. So what I would do is talk to organizations, talk to Coming Home to Israel, let them guide you. And thank God, most of them, like we do in Coming Home to Israel, give free consults. And it doesn't have to be from A to Z completely, but where your fear is, talk to them.
Right.
They will either help directly to you, or they might say, I'll talk to Meny Group, or talk to a lawyer, or talk to an accountant, or talk to the hospital yourself. There's so many fairnesses on path, but for everybody, it's individual.
Right, right. You know what? Maybe I would just I would add to it that part of our, we'll talk about it soon, but part of our philosophy in Meny Group is not only what you're buying and if it's a good investment or not. It's it a lot depends of how you build it, right? And I think it's related very much with Aliyah because there are so many differences, the way you structure the deal, also financially and also taxations and all these other things. And if people would know that in advance, they could have been in a totally different place.
I tell you honestly, Meny, if people would have known the philosophy of the Meny Group, which you actually see as a company who wants to make money, and they have it wrong. So when I would want to invest, I have to know, for instance, where the money really is. And that's why Meny Group is exceptional to all these companies who are in real estate. And I can ask you why, because I think you know the answer.
Right.
You sell knowledge. So if I would ask you where the money really is, what would you answer?
The $1 million question. I think that in a way that's the main part of our philosophy because where the money is in the hidden places, what I call it. They're in the land they're in the rights, they're in the financing, they're in the taxations. There's differences of millions, hundreds of thousands of millions when you do it that way. That's where the money that people are looking for and desperate to find, and they cannot find.
Right.
They're instead of trying to find solutions and getting ideas of how you can do so many differences and all these things, and you can create it in a totally different way, which you will get to your results much faster in a much securer way. They cry about the situation. The real estate is high. The how's it called? The inflation is high. The prices are high. The mortgages are high. And at the end of the day, they're not making a decision. We all know what's happening here in the past 2-3 years.
It's interesting because many questions I get is where did people who made Aliyah make the mistakes? Because we see in the French, wait a second, we see in the French Aliyah, they all went to Netanya in the past years and they all went out again.
Right.
The same question is, where do the investors make the mistakes mostly?
I think mainly in how they structure the deal. Number one, to understand, where the money really is, and if you want to do it right, and if you want to get the best for your dollar, like on your investment. So instead of maybe buying an apartment, so you'll buy the land separately and build separately, and like this, just from doing that, you will save at least 20% on taxes and revenues of that you can do it on your own and basically save it. But I'll surprise you even more than that. There are some areas that you can save. You can save so much taxes. Did you know, for an instance, if a person wants to live above the green line, which in the past people would have used to be afraid of it, but today everybody lives everywhere. We know Efrat, we know Ariel, we know Elkanah, we know Tzofim. The beautiful areas of Israel. So in those cases, people that go live there, if they would have purchased the house of their investment before they made Aliyah, they wouldn't pay purchase tax. They wouldn't pay VAT in many cases. They wouldn't pay appreciation taxes. That's a lot of money, So if a person wants, for an instance, to live in an area like that, you should definitely do it before he made Aliyah. Not a lot of people know that, Financing. What are the options? What costs you more? What costs you less? What does it mean what you're doing? How do you buy money in Israel? What are the different options that you can do? For an instance, there is an option of taking a loan from the seller. I mean, you can negotiate a deal that you'll give him maybe a little bit more, but in a different period of time or stuff like that. There's all kinds of options.
Okay. It's interesting you talk about taxations for foreign residents. So one of the questions you get in the, let's say, Coming Home to Israel Foundation is, John, when should I buy a house or anyway do something before I make Aliyah or after I make Aliyah? So actually, the Meny Group is giving the answer.
Right.
I understand.
At the end of the day, you have to understand there's four things actually, that affect the taxes, which in Israel is a significant amount of money. It's more than 100% altogether. It's crazy, okay, if you take everything in account. And the four things you have to know is who is the identity of the seller, who is the identity of the buyer, the location of the place, and how you structure the deal. That's where the hidden money is.
I understand, but would you advise, let's say I want to make Aliyah tomorrow. It's exaggeration. I made Aliyah already, but
Right.
let's say I want to make Aliyah. I sold my house in Holland for, let's say, altogether 4 million shekel. So I might have the money to buy a house. And the only hesitation is where do I want to live?
Right.
So what would you advise me to do with this 4 million shekel, to buy an apartment or start renting before? I don't know.
Right. So I'll tell you what, I don't believe in giving an advice because each one is a different story, but I could tell you how it works. When you're ready to buy an apartment or a house that you want to live in, the actual apartment you're going to buy, you want to buy it after you make Aliyah, because then obviously you get the rights of the Oleh Hadash. But if you want to do investments until the stage you're coming in, if you want to structure it differently, you want to buy land separately and build it separately and save a lot of money in it. If your plan is to make Aliyah, let's say 3 to 5 years, right? So then it definitely makes a sense that you do it before you make Aliyah.
So actually I made a good step by renting first, investing, building a little capital, and I was able to help my children.
Right.
And actually, I'm too old to buy anyway, so it's
Listen,
okay. I understand.
listen. If you're a millionaire and you could do both and you could do everything. So obviously, whenever you're ready, you'll buy your house where you want to live in the center of the city, of the best location and the best neighborhood that you want. It's going to cost you a lot of money. But so I don't know to tell you if that's. But if you have a small amount of money, like you said, 4 million shekels, the best way you could have managed it is the way you did it, like by investing. And look at you helped your kids to buy apartments.
Right. Okay, I understand. No, because also we have to understand that a lot of, let's say, advantages for taxes, for support, financial support, is when you made Aliyah. Like if I would have rented my house in Holland, I wouldn't have paid any, let's say, taxes on the income for 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
That was also the nice thing about working for a company abroad, because you don't pay any taxes, income taxes. That's for 10 years for all the Olim. At the other hand, which people think like, oh, I make 5,000 euros every month, that's nice. But all the headaches you have by having a house in, for instance, in Holland or America, you still have costs, you have to manage it, etc. So your idea, which you gave to me in the early stages, sell the house and put it into an investment in land, and from there you can establish more. Man, I really appreciated that. They were one of the best decisions I could ever make.
Thank you. But you know what, John? I know the real estate point of view, right? I know how it affects if you want to make Aliyah when it's got to do with real estate and investments in Israel. But I'm sure you, with all what you've been exposed to, different taxation aspects of Olim, which they have to know. So what are the usually the people that make Aliyah? What are the things that they don't know that you found out, or it's interesting for them to know?
Well, very recently I was talking to a family who had a company in United Kingdom, in England.
Yeah.
And they said, we pay taxes in the UK, we pay taxes here. So the simple thing of getting them in touch with a tax authority or a tax company, it was actually, to advise them that actually they should open a company in Israel.
Right.
So they wouldn't pay tax in Israel for the first 7 to 10 years, while they don't pay any taxes anymore in the UK.
Wow.
So that's one thing nobody knows who has a company. The other thing is, for instance, is that you get subsidized when you come in here. I didn't know. When I came to the immigration office, I got 2 questions I couldn't answer. Which bank account do you have? Or which bank are you going to open account? So I asked him, I don't know. You tell me. And I said, why do you ask me actually? Because you get 6 months subsidized of coming here to Israel, whether you're alone or etc. What health organizations you want to be in? Where do you want your insurance? Even this I didn't know. I made the good choice by accident.
Right.
But these things you should prepare before. And you have all your, let's say, when you bring goods from your home, from abroad, into Israel, you have advantages because you don't pay any taxes of import. Well, these are things people have to know. There are also organizations, actually non-Jewish organizations, who will help you in the transport of your goods here. And then you come to the most difficult one, and this is something I want to emphasize, integration. Because you get all this tax, all this support on financial, let's say, circumstances, you don't have to think about this. You have to think about yourself. How am I going to integrate now? And that's why I would advise everybody, don't buy a house if you're not sure you can live over there in this community. Start exploring yourself. And if you're not at the, it's even more difficult because you don't go to a synagogue. But if you want to integrate, you have to open up. And it's not that you have to wait for the people to come to you. And because you have no headaches of your taxes, you have no headaches of your financial problems because everything was organized and you have support, you planned very well, this is what you have to work on. And then you make Aliyah like I did the second time. I still can cry that I didn't force myself to do it the first time like I did it now. But I was young, naive. And
Part of the journey.
And there was no AI. So nobody advised me in a good thing.
So where would you advise, like, when someone wants to start understanding his rights, like you're telling us about?
Yeah.
Where would he start from? How does he work in front of Misrad Aliyah V'Aklita? Like that? Where do
Well,
you start from?
first of all, you have to take an expert in your hand who can advise you. And it starts already with the documentation. Wherever there's Nefesh B'Nefesh, they will help you. They're a very good organization, but they're only in North America. So if you come from Europe, forget about it. So you need an organization who could take you by the hand and say, okay, these are the documentation you should need, and this is with apostille. Most of the people don't even know what's an apostille. So you have to explain. Once you have done this, you did the official deed in order to be possible to make Aliyah. Then you wait for the approval. Once you have the approval, now starts the real action. What action do I have to take? How long before do I have to start to prepare this action already? So that's the side of the organization, the planning of your Aliyah. Most important thing, which always comes back in the planning, and that's actually where companies like Meny Group come in. Where am I going to live? Why do I want to live in Jerusalem? You have no idea how many Americans said, I want to live in Beit Shemesh, I want to live in America, in Jerusalem or in Efrat. Because they've been there on vacation. Well, I can tell from my own experience, vacation is something else. I was in my volunteer for 1 year in Ashkelon, and I loved the sea. I had a dispute with my wife, a really hard dispute. She wanted to live in Modena, I wanted to live next to the sea. Of course, I lost.
I see.
But I'm happy I lost.
All right.
Because it's an environment I could never had, for instance, in Rishon or Netanya or whatever. But nobody advised me.
What other rights besides these things that you're talking about, and taxes and stuff like that? What other rights or benefits people that make Aliyah have?
Well, first of all, the rights they have is depending how you make Aliyah. And my own experience is in Holland, you cannot have two passports. So I have still my Dutch passport because I was traveling around the world. And I have my two Dutch roots. So I have no right to make a vote for the Knesset.
Right.
I don't know if that's important. Some people it is. I don't even follow it. The rights I have, I don't think you find it in any other country in the world. The support, not only financial, the way of living, the support of the, how you call them, the Bitoach Leumi, of the Maccabi, of all these health organizations. I pay 10 times less in Israel for 10 times more I get in Israel on health. It's unbelievable in Israel. Nobody knows. I have 10 years of paying tax on my income, even if I work here, much less than anybody who was born here. So is it fair? I don't care. Because actually Israel's doing what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking for every Jew to do. Come to Israel. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't see it, giving you the tools by the government in Israel.
So where the money really is, or what would you say to someone that says I can do it on my own? Which I think is basically will answer both questions.
Well, if some people can say I can do it on my own, either they have lots of money, they don't care, and they know already everything, which is with most of the Israelis, mostly not people from abroad. So they make a big mistake, I can tell you now already. Every advice you can get, and especially when it's for free, and you can understand, and you take the knowledge, you absorb the knowledge from Meny Group, from the Coming Home to Israel, whoever, it's for free. And this is something you have to absorb and you have to make use of. And when you make use of it, then you can make the right decisions. So if you would ask me, for instance, like, why is Meny Group so important? Where's the difference than any other company? Because, and I have to give you a compliment, Meny Greenbaum, just as his great-grandfather, Menachem Mendel Kasher, I think it was, he saw already that buying land in Israel is not only business-wise good, it is, but it's also to give people a place where they can live. And if you combine those two, you are unique in Israel. And secondly, I tell you honestly that the Meny Group and the Coming Home to Israel, who is giving knowledge in every section, somebody who's making Aliyah needs, it's unbelievable. It's unique.
Okay, thank you. I think that's part of why that's why this combination. I think that's where we felt that that's the time to open the amuta
Yeah,
because we don't want to be in a conflict. We have a business model, we have a philosophy, but we want to give the right advice to everyone. Like as long as
absolutely.
they're making the decision to make aliyah, or we can make their life easier.
Absolutely. That's why I would say, you asked me in the beginning, or for who is this podcast actually? And this is really a call to action for everybody who wants to make Aliyah. And even people who live here the same way as I do, renting an apartment. This is the call for action, man. Talk to Meny Group.
Right.
The advice is for free. Whatever you do with it, it's your problem, not my problem anymore. So, yes, this gives the answer to everything, I think.
All right. If you would have asked me, what is the biggest mistake that people make when they make an investment in Israel, is that they work the other way around. There is a famous philosophy of the golden ring, which basically it's three circles which go one after the other. Most people do the other way around. Their first act, they say, okay, let's get this. How can I finance it? And then you ask yourself, why did I do it? And what really which they do is the other way around, and that's
Yeah.
where our SafeLand method is all based on. First, understand what your goal is, what your target is, where you want to get, what journey you want to go, what are your assets, what are your abilities. Only after that, get the tools of how to find the right deals. What are the questions you have to ask? What are the protocols of the thing? And then you actually do it. You choose the right one. If people would have done it that way, they would save a lot of money, time, and you know what? In the young generation, they don't have another choice. Those days that parents could have helped, and those days, or that you could have afforded at least the down payment. Today, the numbers are getting crazy,
Right.
and in the short term, nobody knows where it's going to. You might be risking hundreds of thousands of shekels.
Why do you say nobody knows where it goes to? What do you think about the future of real estate in Israel?
First of all, the honest question, honest question on the short term, definitely nobody knows. It's like flipping a coin. On the short term, nobody knows. I can tell you what's happening now. I can tell you that it can definitely continue like this, at least for the next few months, half a year or two. We don't know. On the long term, I believe that Israel always pops up. After wars, think about it, for more than 2 years, nobody's buying apartments in Israel. So if till today we had the American market that we're looking to buy in Israel, now we know that the American market is in a problem, right? Because the dollar went down. I wish they would know what we're trying to teach these people. Sometimes you have advantages when you do it as a foreigner and with a dollar, but hopefully we'll be able to, teach the people that. Um, and I believe that the Israeli market will recover faster. I'm already starting to feel it happening. The Israeli economy is sky high, like it's beating everything. There's also rational reasons for it, but there's also, it's part of our emunah that the best place, it's called Eretz Asher Enei Hashem Elokecha Ba. If I have to gamble, let me gamble on the place that Hashem likes. So
That's
I
a good
definitely
one.
believe that real estate in Israel is the best investment possible. I used to invest abroad, but it's much easier when you believe that this is our future. This is where we are. So on the long term, I'm really not worried, but definitely you have to be smart. You have to know what you're doing.
Right.
So that's why, the days of buying apartments, 2080, 910, this whole thing, it turned out in the past 2-3 years that it doesn't really work. Everybody was counting on the real estate to go up. Also, the loans, also the mortgages, also the prices. I have my personal experience. I bought a place together with my wife almost 3 years ago, 5 room for 2.65 million shekels. 3 years came. I needed to, pay the rest of the money because the apartment was ready. I'm renting it out. I'm also covering the mortgage. And guess what? They're still selling it for the same price.
So actually, you lost money there.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So if I understand, I like, by the way, the line you said that if you have to invest out of the worst places, you mentioned Hakadosh Baruch Hu mentioned actually Israel is the best place to do anything you want. It's a good argument. But what should people do today, before Aliyah, living in Chutz La'aretz, living here? If they listen to us, what should they do at the moment?
So I'll divide it to two. There is the financial business plan, I'll call it, right? Their family plan, and there is the other parts which got to do with education, community, different support, families that around. That can be very difficult. I know it from my own siblings and my family. But in a financial point of view, um, the same thing that we're teaching in SafeLand. First of all, you'll ask yourself, you really want to understand how the system works and where the money
Mm,
really is, what we call the hidden money. We know that approximately you have a million shekels, an extra million shekels sitting in every property. From the price you pay,
right.
if the market goes up, everybody will join it. But when you do it right, is up to a million shekels that you can either save or make in properties.
But I tell you honestly, I understand this all. But when I talk to people abroad, whether it's Europe or it's America, we have a big issue today. And that's the exchange rate of the dollar or the euro to the shekel. They don't think of investment at the moment because they lose money against the shekel.
You're right. You're right. But you know what? I'll divide my answer to two. Number one, I don't want to say I told you so. It's just being mean. No, but to being honest now, people that made their decision half a year ago, a year ago,
All right.
basically earned or saved 20 to 30%. That's what we're
Okay.
saying. The earlier you'll do it, the earlier you'll plan it, the better situation you'll be in. That's
Mm,
number one. But the second part is that also today, we can't fight what happens. We don't control the results. We don't control the future. We can control what the effort that we're taking, what we call the ishtadlut, right?
mm,
And we can always find our job is to always find the good parts about it. Some benefits are there only for foreigners. Some benefits are there only for people that are working with the U.S. dollar and buying it from a foreign position. You can save purchase tax, VAT. You're talking about more than 25% that you save only on the purchasing cost. Think about it. You're making 25% without doing anything just by structuring it right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understood that once the government made its change for buying over the green line, you save about 81% in total on the purchase. Not on
Not in a per
on the capital, but
if you
it's
rezoning,
81%
right?
if you talk about only the percentages of
That's crazy.
taxations.
You're right.
It is
Right.
interesting.
You're right. Yes, but above the green line, it's a very interesting legal position, and there is a loop over there. So
Right.
there is a loop that is right for everyone, for anyone investing in Israel. Also, people that made Aliyah already. You don't pay betterment taxes. So if you deal with land, if you deal with investments, appreciation,
Mm,
so you don't pay it. So you're saving a lot of money. It could
right.
come up to 50% of the value, which is a lot of money. And then there is the benefit only for the foreigners of the purchase tax, VAT, appreciation, earning taxes,
Yeah, the capital gain.
right? The
Yeah,
capital
right,
gains,
right,
yeah.
right. So to finalize what we're talking about, and we know what the crowd is we talking to, what would you advise them to say? Go ahead, guys, do this. Use us.
First of all, it's free of charge. It's free of charge. Yes, we do business if you decide to, but coming to Israel, we're going to give this knowledge for free. That's my mission. That's your mission. We all understand why we're doing it. Nobody's paying it for us. I think the taxation is a very, very big story over here. I think planning it right, planning it ahead, understanding the game of how you do it and how you can do it comfortably. The history showed us people that were early planners and jumped into the water, Nachshon ben Aminadav, made a much smoother move. The more you wait and don't do anything, that's the worst thing.
Right. So actually, your advice is to the people to take action.
Always,
And what action do they
always.
have to take
My
now?
grandmother, when she made Aliyah from Canada, she sold her house in a very big loss. She said, "I'm cutting my roots. I don't want to go look backwards.
Right.
I'm looking always forward, only forwards, and that's where we are. I'm also not looking backwards. We all make mistakes. We all took our time. We all paid our prices, but you're always judged only by what you're doing from the day you have the knowledge and what is the action that you're taking. And
So
my belief, Israel, investment, moving, chinuch, education, all these things. This is the place to be with all the difficulties.
So actually, you built a community which is not in one town. You built a Meny Group community together with the coming home to Israel. So how can people join our community?
First of all, they can join also coming to Israel, which is always which you're running. You're the CEO of, but basically it's knowledge about this whole journey, tips of how to do it, when to do it, how to do, relevant knowledge in general. Nothing got to do with Meny Group. And whoever wants to take it to the next level in a business point of view, from a career point of view, from a buying point of view, you're always welcome to see what Meny Group has to offer. But either or, it's free. Join our social media. We're putting a lot of things also on YouTube, also in podcasts, also on Instagram, also WhatsApp groups. We're all about the knowledge right now. The
Right.
business comes to. I'm not worried about that.
So actually, what I would say here is the call to action is everybody's welcome to make a meeting either with Meny Group or a combination, or with the Coming Home to Israel, free of charge. Take the knowledge, go ahead, do whatever you want with it, and make use of our knowledge train.
That's what it is. That's
Good.
what it is.
Okay.
At the end of the day, there's three types of meetings that I always meet people. Either people that want to invest, people that have a property and they want to consult in of how to deal with it, or they have an opportunity. They want to make sure they're not making a mistake. They want to see what's the right way of doing it. Or people that want to learn how to do it. We have the courses, we have the seminars, we have the academy. We teach people how to do it from A to Z. But it's interesting once you bring it up. Let me ask you, where, from your experience, people that come from abroad, where do they think the money in Israel is?
Mostly they think it is in the taxes. They have no clue about housing, no clue about investment. Let's say most of the majority of the people don't know anything. For them, it's important that when I come to make Aliyah and I come to live in Israel, what is the financial cost of living? And that means not only buying a house, but it's everything included. They have no clue, for instance, that public transport is much cheaper here than anywhere else in the world, especially in Holland. They have no clue, for instance, that the Coming Home to Israel guides them into their, like you talked about, employee consulting, where they want to be.
Right.
Because not everybody can work remote. So they have to work something. Some people say, well, it's very nice. Many Group is offering me a course and I can become a real estate guy or whatever, investment expert.
So if I would ask you, what's the difference between just, the majority know only one option, buying a property, no matter if it's 2080 and 1090, but buying a place, no matter if it costs 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, wherever they want to live. That's the product that everybody knows, right? But what is the difference, if I would ask you, between buying an asset, buying a house or a property, rather than building an opportunity?
That's interesting. It depends on my wishes. If I know exactly where I want to live, I know exactly the community, I know exactly what I want type of house, and I can find it in the range of my financial possibilities, God save the Queen. However, mostly everybody needs a mortgage anyway. We have no clue about mortgages in Israel. Nobody knows. Unless you have a friend who is an accountant or whatsoever, or mortgage specialist in Israel. But normally people who make Aliyah, they don't know. That's the questions we get.
Right.
If I want to buy a house, how does the mortgage work? And it doesn't work the same as in America. It doesn't work the same as in Europe.
Right.
You have different options here. So you need advisors. So in order to buy property, you have to be very 100% sure that you know the right property, where it is, and also financially how you're going to realize it. I tell you, 99% doesn't know.
Wow. So if I would ask you, where is it that the Olim and the investments from abroad, what opportunity are they missing? Why did they go into they go into the deal too late?
No, it's the old-fashioned way you said. You make Aliyah, you buy. You're going to live in Israel. That's the old-fashioned way, like your grandmother did. I'm selling everything with the loss. I'm going to Israel no matter what it takes. I will go there. She bought a house. She lived there.
Right.
She didn't make any investment. That comes later in a business way of thinking. Nowadays, it's totally different because everything is very expensive in Israel, especially real estate. So if you take, for instance, the comparison to the American market and the Israeli market, man, it's the wahala here in Israel. Everybody who wants to invest and make money go into real estate.
So why are they losing that opportunity? Why are they
Because
going
they
too late?
don't know. They don't know. If you talk to Nefesh Ben Nefesh, if you talk to the Aliyah, if you talk to the Sochnut, they will not give you this advice.
Right. It's a
So you
more.
have to
It's
go
more
to private
financial. Right.
institutes.
Right.
And if you want to go without any obligation, you go, for instance, to the Coming Home to Israel. They're more like this, and they will give you advice. Now, the unique situation for me, because I get all these questions, is I have a business behind me giving all this knowledge, and now I say it very nicely, without only thinking about the profit I can make on people making Aliyah. No, because you were brought up according to the philosophy of your great-grandfather, and now we combined it together.
So, what do you have to understand when you want to say on something that it's a good deal? You closed a good deal. What's a good deal in your eyes?
Okay, first of all, the good deal is you make Aliyah. You made your wishes come through. And if we don't talk about the anti-Semite, which is making people coming to Israel, it means that we have to say that we answer our Zionistic dream. That's number one. Secondly, when they can come prepared. Not like I did 25, what is it? Yeah, 25 years ago. Even longer, 25 years ago. Man, I'm old. 25 years ago. Coming unprepared. And only somebody from the Sochnut, who was, by the way, also the Shalech of Haponim, was, by the way, also one of the teachers in the Jewish school in Holland. He just made the questionnaires and that's it. So you can prepare much more than in the earlier days. And the important things now today, because everything is more expensive, especially in the real estate business, you can start preparing before through companies, organizations like ours.
So, what would you consider a good deal? Like in your eyes, if today someone comes with a budget and wants to make Aliyah within 3 to 5 years, what in your eyes is a good deal?
Well,
in your business point of view,
very, very simple for them. Don't buy a house unless you have the money, you don't need a mortgage, and you know exactly where you want to live and what kind of property you want to have. I can tell you 0.01% might be falling into this region. So what I advise is, if you come and you decide to come in 3 years, 5 years, which is a long period, first of all, make pilot trips. Come and have a look. Talk to the experts. Take the free advices you can get, the knowledge you can get. If you come on the shorter term, that's mostly the people I'm talking to, in 1 year, they don't have time to make pilot trips. So I would tell them, sell your house wherever you are if you have a house to sell. Start renting in the place you think you want to live. And use this money to create more money because you might want to buy, and we know Israel is expensive, and it will become more expensive.
So you're saying on the short term, definitely not to buy an apartment.
No.
Right. And why investing, why...
investing in real estate?
No, not investing in real estate. We all understand that. But, the real estate took a big hit. What in your eyes, definitely in the past 2 years, but what in your eyes is the best investment in real estate if I want to get profits?
Well, as I have learned, and I think many people through the Meny Group have learned, even if they didn't make the investment, the earlier you come into a stage of the projects, like, for instance, TABA, which means that there's no approval yet of the municipality to, let's say, start building, you come in the early stage. So you pay only for the land at a low price. During the whole process, and I'm not going to explain it today, but I know by the end, I double my money when I got out of the project, or even if I want to live there, I buy approximately $1 million below market price.
Right.
So anyway, where I invest in land, the earliest as possible I can come into the project, the best benefits I can have, no matter if I want to make a profit or have a house. The only thing is, and that's the difference with the Meny Group, you talked about it a little bit, the SafeLand method. So I think that people should learn the SafeLand method, why it's called SafeLand method. And I know, and that's what I try to explain also to the people, that if you make an investment, you make it on the stock exchange, you make it I don't know where, or you make it even in real estate, the risks are high everywhere.
Right.
But through the SafeLand method, your risk is more or less zero. And that's because of all the protections you're giving
Right.
through
It's
this
risk
method.
management. That's what
That's
it is.
it. That's it.
Ultimate risk management. Nobody knows, and then
But we all know that the investment in land in Israel at the moment or in real estate is the best investment you can make comparing to anything else.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. You know what? When I analyze the real estate in Israel, I come to learn that the value of the land itself in the past 20 years, not longer than that, went up in 400%.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is.
You know, when you buy property now, it used to be the land value was about 40 to 50% of the total cost. Today it's 70 and 80. You know, at the end of the day, it's limited.
That's interesting because you asked me, why do people need to coming home to Israel? Why do people need a management company in this material of real estate?
Right.
It's the same question I can put in your plate.
For sure, for sure. I wouldn't call it a management company. I would call it more a guidance company. Like you know, when we teach people, and that's our philosophy, and there's a way for it because this whole you know thousands of experience, of mistakes, of professional people guiding us, the whole team that are surrounding us, that we came up with the entire idea. We have the full picture, and we know what are the obstacles that can happen.
Right.
And by getting the right tools, no matter if you want to do it on your own, no matter if you want to join us, they're doing it. That's the right way of securing yourself. That's the right way of reach your goals, the fastest way, the most securest way, and you know to be able to plan your future for the next 10, 20 years for yourself, for the kids, or whatever it is.
So let me go back a little bit in the beginning of the story. So what is, according to you, the biggest mistake investors make in real estate in Israel?
They work the other way around. That's the biggest mistake. They first react and then they think, meaning that they come into a roadshow or whatever of real estate. They have dozens of opportunities in front of them, and they try to see how they can pay for it and how can they afford it. And only after they'll ask us of why they did it.
So if I'm abroad, I know the market. I'm a real estate, let's say, broker in America, in New York.
Right.
I can do the same in Israel.
You could.
Nachon?
Definitely. Listen,
So I can just buy land and that's it.
no, buying land, obviously you need to know much more. Our business, our speciality, we locate land, we work on appreciation of land. Because we acknowledge and understand that 90% of the profit is sitting in the rights, is sitting in the land, even before you put the first brick. So we're on that place. We understand that most of the cost is sitting in the land. So we can get a hold of the land in earlier stages, right? And to save by that so much money. So either, no matter if we're an investor, we'll make best profit on our principal. We aim for not less than 100% in 3 years. Those are numbers that hit the market and wins the entire real estate market. So it's been improving itself. You know, I can tell you that in the past 6 years, out of 5 projects that we went into, 4 out of them went through Taba, meaning that the full appreciation of the land, or 90% of the appreciation of the land, happened already. And those investments made anywhere between 100% to 200%.
Right. I see also that Meny Group is talking a lot about the SafeLand method.
Right.
Can you explain in just short, why is the SafeLand method so important?
The SafeLand method, in the end of the day, is my life story, also in business and also in life. In the end of the day, SafeLand is a protection, number one, okay, is the right way, the wise way, the safest way. By doing it the right way, you're going to be saving so much headaches and so much time and so much, disappointment of what you've been doing. Our philosophy is based on 3 basic things, right? Understand exactly what your identity is and what you're looking for. Understand how the system works and really the money is, and understand what is the full protection that you need. What are the 6 layers of protection that you need to have? I'm talking about protecting your principal, protecting the planning, protecting the evaluation, protecting the market value, the fact that you have. Nobody knows the future, right? You don't know what's going to be in a year and 2 and 3 in 3 years' time. A lot of these investments, a lot of these decisions, you're tied up to them. And once you made a decision, if you want to sell out, if you want to change your decision, you can't do that. And of all of our deals, we want to make sure that we have full control of our rights, of our profits, that we can sell it to who we want, when we want, how we want. We want to make sure that no matter what's going to happen, we're going to have value going up, and we can, if we need to sell in between, we'll do that. Those are the protections that you need. You know, people don't know, but there's so many companies now. It came back to the market because everybody understands. You know, where we've been saying for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Now you see a lot of companies copying us. Also structuring the deals differently. Instead of selling apartments, they doing land separately, and and building costs together.
Yeah.
And the second thing is they all understand that if you're not going to invest in land before it gets to Taba, before it gets its full rights, you're losing the game. You're basically paying top dollar already.
I got it. And what's the difference between then? Last question about this for me.